Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1495B, and today's date is February 11th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Deep State Pushes for a Major Conflict by Attacking. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Bix Weir. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So if you just go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will bring you to the interview. You can play it right there. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com or NewsSentinel.com site. And all you need to do is scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the interview right on the sites. Or you can go to Steemit, steemit.com. That is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we can see, the walls are closing in around the deep state, and they're starting to make their move in trying all different tactics to get a war started. We also see that the CIA is being implicated in a report where they paid for the Trump sex tape. And we can see that The Intercept came out with this report, and the New York Times alleging that the American spies paid a Russian operative $100,000 last September for what they were told were stolen NSA cyber weapons and videotapes of Trump engaged with prostitutes in Moscow hotel room. Now, the CIA is saying that this is completely made up because what's happening right now is the intelligence agencies are being caught up in all of this where they were conspiring to push this agenda. And we're starting to see that everyone's starting to get a little nervous here because a lot of the information and the truth is starting to come out. Actually, Trump came out and said, according to the New York Times, a Russian sold phony secrets on Trump to the U.S. asking price of $10 million, brought down to $1 million to be paid over time. I hope people are now seeing and understanding what is going on here. It is all now starting to come out, drain the swamp. And we see that this is exactly what's happening. We see individuals are starting to resign because they realize they don't want to be caught up in all of this stuff. And we see that everything's starting to break down. Now, the Times reported that the NSA cyber weapons were designed to hack into Russian and Chinese computer networks, but wound up in the hands of a hacking collective known as the Shadow Brokers. Hackers have reportedly used the tool to crack into networks around the world, including businesses, hospitals, and factories. And once again, these weapons are created by the CIA. The CIA has been using these weapons. They're the ones who've been hacking into a lot of this stuff here. They might have given it to other hackers to be used, but we can see it all revolves around them. Now, with the FISA memo, it looks like the Democrats came out and they created their own memo, and Trump has declined to declassify the memo, citing the Department of Justice and FBI objects to it. Now, what I think they've done here, and they created this memo, the Democrats, and they put in a lot of intelligence information where that is classified, and they knew they were doing this on purpose. So Trump had no alternative but to reject this and have those individual parts taken out. And they wanted to play this up in the corporate media to say, see, Trump declassified the FISA memo, let that out, but the memo that we put out, look, he wouldn't allow it out there. And basically he's telling them, just take this little part out because the Department of Justice and FBI objects to it, then we can release the memo. And I think they've done this on purpose, so the corporate media picks it up. People think that he's holding back, but this is not what is happening at all. Now, we know out in the Middle East, Afghanistan, and all these different countries where we had regime change, the deep state, they're losing their grip in all these different areas. And what's happening out in Afghanistan right now, we understand that Trump, he's closed the routes coming from Pakistan into Afghanistan. This is where the Islamic State were using these routes to supply weapons and other things in Afghanistan. The U.S. troops were using these routes to get supplies in, and this was all being shut down. These routes were really being used by the intelligence agencies. They were being used to supply and fund the paid mercenaries, the terrorist groups, and we see right now that Russia, well, they pretty much did an unexpected move in Afghanistan, which really put the deep state in a corner here. And Moscow right now, they are pushing the idea of peace. They have the Taliban, they have the government in Afghanistan talking to each other. Now, basically what this is going to do, it's going to allow the Taliban to sit down at the negotiating table and enter perhaps a coalition government. Now, the corporate media, they pretty much set their agenda to say Russia is supporting the Taliban. This is what they were using while Russia was trying to get the Taliban and the government of Afghanistan to sit together at the negotiating table, and the corporate media was out there trying to convince everyone that they were working with the Taliban, supporting the Taliban, giving them weapons, and all this type of nonsense. But what's really happening right now is that in December of 2017, during the negotiations in Oslo, the Russian side managed to reach an agreement with the representatives of Afghanistan, the United States, and the EU on relaunching the negotiation process. Kabul gave Moscow a roadmap they see fit for the peace process, which should be approved by Russia in mid-February of 2018. If the negotiation process is launched in 2018, then there is hope to create a stable alliance of legal political elites of Afghanistan and that part of the Taliban that does not support the idea of expansion under jihadist flags. These joint forces could try, with general support of all countries in the region, to eradicate the Islamic State and other radical groups and form a government. And this is what they're trying to do right now, and this is a problem once again for the deep state. Another problem is North Korea. We have the Olympics going on right now. North Korea has joined in on the Olympics, and the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, now has invited Moon Jae-in, who is the president of South Korea, up to North Korea to visit with him. They're starting the peace process. Now, during the Olympics here, it looks like there was a cyber attack where we see the Olympic web presence stop functioning. Users could not access pages or print even event tickets. And everyone was saying, oh, it's North Korea. No, it's Russia, because Russia, they were banned and all this stuff. And we see that South Korea kind of shut down the false allegations about Russia and North Korea. They really don't know where the cyber attacks came from. I have some ideas, most likely the deep state, trying to kick something off, trying to push their agenda, but that really didn't happen. We see Russia is out there saying, listen, we could sell the S-400 missile system to any country that feels insecure. Now, if the U.S., and they mentioned this, if the U.S. would like to purchase our S-400s because they're afraid of North Korea launching a missile attack or something like that, we could sell them the S-400, and it would basically seal their entire airspace and protect them from any type of an attack. That's very interesting. We see already that the Kurds, they received Manpads from the U.S. And they received these Manpads a month earlier under the agreement between Washington and the YPG. And the Manpads have been delivered to the Kurds in the northwestern part of Syria near the town of Afrin. Now, we understand that Manpads were used to bring down a Russian jet. We know they were supplied to the Kurds, and we need to understand if they were supplying these Manpads to fight the Islamic State, why did we supply Manpads? The Islamic State has no air force. So what would be the purpose of supplying Manpads? Well, the purpose was because they weren't going to fight the Islamic State. They're going to fight Syria, Russia, trying to get something started. And we can see right now this is exactly what is happening out there. We see Israel. They've carried out large-scale attacks on Syria. And we see that Syria has downed an Israeli F-16 fighter jet. Now, of course, Israel is saying we have every right to fly into Syria and take out any targets that we want, but Syria does not have the right to shoot down our jets. Really, so if Syria flew their jets into Israel, Israel doesn't have the right to shoot them down. Yes, every country has the right to protect their sovereign airspace, their country. If another country is flying in and bombing that country, It is an act of war. And this is exactly what the deep state wants to do. They're trying to push a war. Now, Putin is out there, and he spoke to Netanyahu, and he's saying that Netanyahu needs to calm the situation down, and he needs to stop this violence before it gets out of control. And we can see right now that Syria and Russia, they have their S-400 missile systems prepared and ready to go. And if there are additional flights within the country, I do believe they're going to start shooting planes down because they've gotten rid of the Islamic State. Most of the paid mercenaries, they're pretty much done for, and the whole thing's falling apart. This is why Israel, and part of the deep state system, this is why they're trying to start this war. They're pushing their agenda. Because what we're seeing right now is that James Mattis is out there, along with the French defense minister, saying that they have no evidence that Assad used chemical weapons in Syria. There's no evidence whatsoever. Now, what we're seeing, if we go back in time, because back in May of 2017, Mattis had a different story, telling us that yes, maybe Assad did use chemical weapons. As the Trump administration and those patriots in government take more and more control, we're going to see a lot less of this. We're going to see messages coming out saying, no, this didn't happen. They're not going to say, yes, there might have been this attack or that. They're just going to come out and flatly disagree with the corporate media completely, because that means they're gaining more and more power. And we're actually starting to see this, because what we're seeing right now is they're saying, yeah, there is no evidence of chemical weapons. Assad can be the elected leader there. Yes, Syria is a sovereign country, and everything is going to go completely against the corporate media. As the Trump administration, the patriots within his administration, and those non-elected leaders who are working with him, as they gain more and more power, you're going to see them completely disagree with the corporate media. They're not going to say, yes, Assad must go. All this is going to stop, and we're already starting to see this. Actually, Mattis was out there, and he's saying, listen, we're not going to have a wider war with Syria. We're not bringing in troops. We're not going to be attacking, because what happened during this little skirmish where the U.S. attacked the Syrian armed forces, this was created by the deep state to push a war. We see Israel right now, they're preparing for a war in the north, and they're moving their air defense system. They're moving alongside the Syrian border right now, and I'm very worried that they're going to be trying to push another war. It looks like they're getting ready to try to do something, and they're putting their air defense systems all in this area to protect Israel from what they're about to do. Because if you attack another country, that country is going to turn around and retaliate against the country that attacked them. But this is what they want. And I think Putin and Syria, they're sitting back. They're not going to take the approach of attacking. I don't believe they're going to fire missiles into Israel. I think Israel is going to try to set up a lot of different false flags along with the deep state and mostly the coalition forces that are along with this. And they're going to try to make it look like something is about to happen. And they're hoping that they take the bait. They're hoping that they push the agenda. But I don't think this is going to work. And the reason why they're doing this is one of their last acts of trying to get something started. We see already cyber attacks have started in North Korea. We see they're pushing the agenda in Syria. And if all this fails, they're going to use a major event to really show that, the North Koreans, the Islamic State, or the Iranians, whoever they push, the Russians, they're going to try to make it look like they're the ones who started this all off by creating an event of all events. And again, we're seeing the cyber attacks where they're pinning this either on Russia, they're pinning it on North Korea, and they can take this and move this as part of their agenda to say, now they're cyber attacking the financial institutions, now they're cyber attacking the infrastructure, and they can push their agenda. So we can see that the Trump administration is gaining strength. They're countering everything the corporate media is saying, and this is going to grow every single day. And pretty soon there'll be just everything's going to counter everything they say. And we're going to see the deep state pushing their agenda to try to get us into war. We're going to see the bobbing up and down of the stock market because we have two factions trying to push their agendas. So we're going to see a lot of chaos moving forward. And as this happens, we're going to see states move to pass laws to allow cryptocurrency as a currency to pay for things. We're going to see companies accept different types of coins to pay for items. We're also going to see employers start to pay their people in cryptocurrency because the whole thing is going to be transitioned into a new currency system, and they're just trying to get everyone prepared for this. The central bank, they don't want this to happen. So they're going to push their agenda to bring down the economy as hard and as fast as possible to make everyone spin and make sure everyone doesn't know what's going on here and try to hook it to some type of an event. So we have a lot of chaos ahead of us, but one thing is for sure, we're going to be going through this transition, hopefully not war, but everyone needs to be ready and prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.